They said he was composed under fire, a legal mind trained in scrutiny, discipline, and control. But on live national television, all that collapsed in real time. What the public witnessed wasn't just a debate gone wrong, it was a full-scale dissection of Keir Starmer's credibility, live and unfiltered, by none other than Andrew Neil. And the flashpoint, the arrest of Tommy Robinson, Britain's most polarising political figure. It wasn't supposed to go this way. But what began as a straightforward interview rapidly descended into something far more damning, a televised reckoning of the Labour leader's ethics, his past, and his raw discomfort when forced to defend the undefendable. Before we go further, take a moment if you're tired of being lied to, misled, or force-fed media narratives that bury truth under layers of polished PR, subscribe to Precious Update now. We report what others won't. No spin, no filter, just facts and fire. Back to the moment that stunned a nation. Andrew Neil didn't come to play nice. From the outset, he zeroed in on one question: what role did Labour play, directly or indirectly, in setting the political tone that led to Tommy Robinson's arrest? Starmer immediately defaulted to legalese. The law must be upheld, he said. No one is above it. But Neil wasn't biting. He wasn't there for slogans. He was there for answers. What followed was nothing short of a public unmasking. Neil presented a sequence of internal communications, leaked messages between party advisors, local councils, and key policy staff that appeared to show a coordinated political pressure campaign to label Robinson as a civic threat, despite police briefings noting no immediate risk. The pressure, Neil suggested, didn't come from law enforcement. It came from politicians, specifically, Labour officials operating under Starmer's leadership. Starmer squirmed. He stuttered. And then, the worst thing happened for any political leader on live TV. He tried to dodge the question. But Neil didn't let go. Mr. Starmer, did your office approve the internal memo advising councils to accelerate civil disruption protocols in response to Robinson's rally in Bradford, yes or no? Silence. A long, awkward silence. And then Starmer replied, that memo wasn't something I saw directly. That's when Neil pounced. You didn't see it, or you're denying its existence. Suddenly, the man who once commanded courtrooms with ease was sweating, blinking rapidly, and visibly shaken. Viewers at home could sense it. This wasn't just an interview. This was exposure, a demolition of the mask. And it didn't stop there. Neil shifted the focus to deeper questions about political weaponization of the justice system. Was Labour, under Starmer, endorsing a dangerous precedent, one where dissidents are silenced not through debate, but through legal and procedural warfare? Because that's what the arrest of Tommy Robinson now looked like to many. Not a clean-cut legal matter, but a politically convenient move orchestrated to suppress opposition just months before a critical election. Neil didn't mince words. He called it a dangerous flirtation with authoritarianism wrapped in a cloak of respectability. He laid out reports showing how local Labour-controlled councils coordinated with police chiefs on timing, venues, and public messaging, creating an illusion of independent law enforcement action when, in fact, political fingerprints were all over the operation. By this point, Starmer had completely lost control of the narrative. Instead of refuting claims, he defaulted to vague statements about the rule of law and community safety. But viewers weren't buying it. The live chat on the BBC feed was flooded with angry messages. On Twitter, Starmer meltdown began trending within minutes. It was no longer a debate. It was a collapse. But it wasn't just the arrest that ruined him. It was what came next. Neil pivoted to Starmer's record as Director of Public Prosecutions. He brought up specific cases where political motivations were allegedly prioritized over legal standards. One such case involved a known Labour donor who was never charged despite repeated allegations and sworn testimony. Another, more controversial example, involved Starmer's office allegedly advising against prosecution in a grooming gang case due to community sensitivity concerns. The tension in the room was electric. You could almost feel the panic setting in. Starmer tried to interrupt, tried to shift focus, but Neil cut him off again. You built your career on being the man of law. So why does your record suggest you only apply it when it's politically convenient? At that moment, Starmer snapped. Not in a violent outburst but in tone, in posture, in sheer unraveling. He raised his voice. He pointed his finger. And he accused Neil of stoking division and using fringe narratives to smear progressive policies. But Neil didn't even flinch. "What I'm doing is holding power to account, Mr. Starmer. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps it says more about your leadership than it does about my questions." That line was the dagger. You could hear the audience gasp. Even hardened political watchers admitted later they had never seen Starmer so thoroughly dismantled, so utterly cornered, and with nowhere to run. And that's the real tragedy here. Because it wasn't just a humiliation for one man, it was a brutal spotlight on an entire political machine that claims to be progressive while weaponizing the system behind closed doors. But let's not lose sight of the original scandal, the arrest of Tommy Robinson. Say what you will about him. He's a divisive figure, no doubt. But in a democracy, even divisive voices deserve a platform. Arresting him just days before a speech on government overreach didn't look like law enforcement. It looked like suppression. And now, in the aftermath of the Starmer interview, that suspicion isn't just plausible, it's practically confirmed. The political backlash has been fierce. Civil liberty groups, including some traditionally aligned with Labour, are now demanding a full parliamentary inquiry into the arrest. Several MPs have called for an independent panel to investigate political interference in police operations. And more than a dozen Labour councillors have publicly criticised Starmer's handling of the issue, warning it risks permanently staining the party's reputation for fairness. Even within Labour's ranks, there's a quiet storm brewing. Sources close to the shadow cabinet report internal panic, with some staffers privately admitting that Starmer walked into a trap and may never recover. A special emergency meeting has been scheduled to contain the fallout, but for many observers, the damage is already done. Because when the leader of a major political party is caught dodging accountability on live TV, when the questions are clear and the answers are foggy, and when the consequences involve public trust in law enforcement, it's more than a scandal. It's a constitutional crisis in slow motion. And Andrew Neil, he didn't just win a debate. He exposed a fault line, a crack in the very foundation of Britain's political integrity, a reminder that titles don't equal truth, and PR can't save you when the facts are too loud to bury. So now the country watches. Tommy Robinson remains a free man for now, released on bail but still under heavy legal scrutiny. The public, however, is far less restrained. They're angry, they're watching, and they're talking. Social media is ablaze. Protests are forming. Civil liberty advocates are mobilizing. And Keir Starmer, he's gone quiet. No press statements, no follow-ups, just silence from the man who once vowed to be the voice of justice. But that's the problem with masks. Once they're torn off, it's hard to ever put them back on. You've been watching Precious Update. If this matters to you, if truth in power, transparency, and accountability are principles you still care about, then don't stay silent. Like this video, drop a comment, and hit subscribe. We're just getting started.